Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is LL3's podcast. Actually, it's part 2 of the NATO 3. This is Craig again, and I'm still here in the swampy mangroves of South Florida. Still the date, December 28th, 2013, on a Saturday. Got a little cloudier, but I will proceed from the truthout.org's site entitled Reveal the Story Behind the NATO 3 Domestic Terrorism Alerts. And now I'll be continuing with mapping the Chicago activist community's human terrain. It should go without saying that the NATO 3 are not being represented by high-priced attorneys. They are, however, being represented by attorneys at the People's Laws Office of Chicago, PLO, which specializes in high-profile civil rights cases involving law enforcement and others. On April 30th, the office filed court papers arguing that under a recent consent decree, an agreement dissolved in 2009 that limited undercover police activities by the city's notorious Red Squad, a unit that spied on political and social activities of Chicagoans during the 1950s and 60s. Chicago Police Department's undercover operation in the NATO 3 case would have been illegal. At this heart, the consent decree prohibited precisely the type of undercover activities that the CBD engage in here. PLO argued it appeared to be the broadest foray into undercover activities implicating the First Amendment. PLO also argued that the spying entrapment attempts were motivated by the ideology of the activists, not an imminent threat to public safety. The state has acknowledged broader investigation of Occupy Chicago and political organizing surrounding the NATO summit. The PLO stated in a court motion, this large overreaching operation began by March 2012 and was based in part by political affiliations and beliefs. The Booz Allen Hamilton connection. Court records also show that members of the FBI's Chicago Regional Computer Forensic Laboratory, which short is RCFL, may be called to testify if the case goes to trial. A domain name search for the Chicago's RCFL's website shows that it was registered by military and intelligence contractor Booz Allen Hamilton, BAH. B-A-H. BAH is a major Central Intelligence Agency and U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, contractor abroad. Former CIA Director R. James Woosley only served as BAH Vice President, while Director of National Intelligence James Clapper once served as a BAH executive, and current BAH Vice Chairman John Mike McConnell held a Clapper's position under the former President George W. Bush. Eric Snowden, the NSA whistleblower who revealed classified NSA spy program to The Guardian and The Washington Post, was a contractor for BAH at the time of the leak. Michael Hayden, the former head of the NSA and CIA, as well as the Deputy Director of the National Intelligence, has referred to BAH as a digital Blackwater, reference to Blackwater USA, now known as Academy with an I, the world's most powerful mercenary army. BAH is the one of the NSA's most important and trusted contractors. It involved in virtually every aspect of intelligence and surveillance, writes investigative journalist Tim Sharrock in a recent article. Among other secret projects, Booz was deeply involved in Total Information Awareness, the controversial data mining project run for the Bush administration. If I'm correct, it means DARPA. Missed in Chirac's analysis, Ba also provided IT and logistical support for the Pentagon's human terrain system and its human terrain teams, which mapped the human terrain of communities abroad for the military and CIA. A career New York cop, Chicago Police Department Superintendent Gary McCarthy is no stranger to the human terrain system. It wasn't long after he formally assumed the mantle of CBD Superintendent in 2011 that McCarthy drew fire for having allowed aspiring tasks to the mapped human terrain of Newark, New Jersey's Islamic community to operate there, where he served as police chief before taking the position of CBD's top dog. McCarthy also served as a NYPD commander when the police set up spy rings before the 2004 Republican National Convention in New York City and during CIA on the Hudson, the joint NYPD-CIA project that was set up, a hit and run by former CIA Deputy Director of Operations David Cohen, the man to map the human terrains of New York City's Islamic community. Man, these guys love coming around. It's like a circus tour for them. Wow. This here is called Shortcomings of Mapping Human Terrain. The problem with mapping the human terrain, it relies on overly simplistic stereotypes. Case in point, Special Agent Maureen Mazzola. Mazzola is designated in court records as one of the people of the state of Illinois may call as testify if NATO 3 case goes to trial. She's also famous for an incident based on stereotypes that unfolded before the 2008 Republican National Convention, RNC. In a nutshell, Mazzola attempted to recruit a University of Minnesota student in spring of 2008 to join the FBI ranks as an informant. Conned into the meeting by U of M's police sergeant, the student was displeased and came to the press to tell his story. She told me that if I had the perfect look, recalled the student after the incident, and that I had a perfect personality. They kept saying I was friendly and personable for what they were looking for. Stereotypes were the name of the game for the FBI Mazzola, as an account in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Pages said. What they were looking for was someone to show up a vegan potlucks throughout the Twin Cities and rub shoulders with RNC protesters, schmoozing his way into their inner circle, then reporting back to FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, a partnership between multiple federal agencies and local law enforcement. Reads City Pages, rare inside look into recruitment of an informant. The days leading up to the 2008 RNC saw the arrest of Scott DeMuth, an animal rights activist and member of the Animal Liberation Front, short for ALF, as the ultimate result of a fishing expedition led by Mazzola. DeMuth was later charged for an animal enterprise terrorism plot that took place in a University of Iowa lab dating back 2004 and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge and serving 6 months in federal prison. As Special Agent Maureen Mazzola testified to on the stand in Scott's pretrial hearing, the FBI used pretext of this raid as a fishing expedition, searching Scott's room for anything linking to criminal activities that fell well outside the scope of the search warrant being executed. His support committee explained, in this process, Mazzola came across a journal that she mistakenly believed linked to him to the 2004 AFL raid at the University of Iowa. Court documents for that case show that Mazzola, unsurprisingly given the backdrop, was working with an informant leading up to the most eventual arrest. Mazzola was one of the people's the U.S. government called to testify as a witness during the DeMuth case. One man's terrorist, another man's language criminal. Digging deeper, there's also a question of why terrorism. Why not just leave the NATO 3's charges at several felony counts? PLO tackled the terrorism head-on, The PLO made the legal argument that in January 2013, the language in Illinois' terrorism statute may be overly broad and unconstitutional. Judge Wilson, though, denied his constitutional challenge 2 months later, saying the law under the three were charged as constitutional on its face, but withheld judgment on the as-applied challenge, providing the defense with the option to renew the as-applied challenge as trial approaches. It all boils down to politics, and a May 2012 Chicago Tribune story demonstrates the political nature of the charges, which were decided on at the proverbial 11th hour of the night before the May 19, 2012 bail bond proffer hearing. Cook County Attorney General Anita Alvarez and 7 of her prosecutors spent Friday evening analyzing the statute and weighing whether their case rose to the level of domestic terrorism, reported the Tribune. It was a marathon meeting with lawyers reading the statute out loud at times. Others ran in and out of the room to look up the case law on other potential charges, such as conspiracy to commit arson. After 4 hours of debate, Alvarez polled those in the room and had their clear consensus that the terrorism statutes offer the toughest penalty and sent the strongest message. As an important parallel, a 2009 neo-Nazi right-wing terrorism threat report done by the Department of Homeland Security went unpublished and censored, showing the truly political nature of terrorism charges. The author of the report, a former DHS analyst, has asserted that he warned of the right-wing terrorist elements that fueled the 2012 attacks on the Sikh Temple, S-I-K-H, Sikh Temple in Wisconsin, and that his warnings were ignored. Another example in Boston, local police, in conjunction with federal law enforcement, focused attention of the political activism of local Occupy activists. At the same time, they missed the actual threat posed by the Boston Marathon bombers. Conscientious political events are, in many ways, a trap set to capture those who even insinuate the wrong kind of political language, creating language crimes, as Shui put in his eponymous book. The person wearing the undercover mic began their work with a distinct power advantage over those they talk with. Shui writes in his book, in undercover conversations, when the targets think they will simply engage in everyday conversations, they are less on alert and are frequently less careful about how they say things. The person doing the taping, in contrast, they have the power to decide to when to tape, who to tape, when to start the taping, when to stop, and even how to slant the conversation to serve their own ends. Sure refer this as a manipulative seduction. When being seduced, Shui adds, the listener does not understand the hidden intent of the seducer. The overall message is clear. Whatever your political stripe in the United States, the authorities are watching. That is no longer conspiracy theory. It's policy, and now just a question of what authorities do with intelligence. And that decision is by and large a political one. If any case in the last decade has shown that reality is the case of the NATO 3. Their case revealed authorities watching anarchists and the Occupy movement, specifically designated as the reason for the creation. Field Intelligence Team 7150 with an all-seeing eye. Those young men fit the stereotypical profile of what a homegrown terrorist is supposed to look like. They're politically active, angry with their country's direction, and burdened with nothing to lose but their freedom and maybe their lives. The CBD and the state of Illinois would like to believe that makes them dangerous unhinged